It's good to be back with another video. I took a few weeks off to catch up on a few games in my backlog before Rebirth releases, so please forgive my absence. I think I speak for everyone when I say the state of play was absolutely insane. They revealed so much. I almost regret watching it, but at the same time I don't regret it at all. There's a lot to discuss in the trailer, the gameplay breakdown, and even a few minor things from interviews. I was hoping to get this video out sooner, but I mean, come on, the demo just dropped. If you enjoy Final Fantasy updates, theories, and other content, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out. Before we get into it, I just want to announce this could possibly be my last video covering Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, at least until after the game releases. I may or may not upload my demo playthrough discussing strategies and other details I found, but it'll all depend on my free time. With all that being said, I'll be back with theories regarding Part 3 once I finish Rebirth. I'd like to take my time with this game, so I'll be avoiding all social media and other videos until after I record my very first video upon completing the game. I hope you guys understand, and thank you for your patience. Now let's get into the video. So the trailer goes full throttle right at the start. Sephiroth mentions the black materia for the first time, and it's followed up by a scene with Sung placing the keystone on the altar at the Temple of the Ancients. An interesting thing to take note of is the layout of the Temple of the Ancients. If you imagine the temple from an aerial view, it's basically the Shinra logo. I thought that was pretty cool, and from what I can tell, it looks like we'll fight Reno and Rude at the Temple of the Ancients as well. I'm not positive it's the temple, but based on the architecture and livestream in the background, I think it's very likely. But what's interesting about this fight is Rude is actually attacking Tifa. I wonder if Reno will call him out for going too easy on her. After they get their asses kicked, I can totally see Reno blaming Rude for losing. We got a new look at more synergy moves, and Aerith with sunglasses was something I didn't know I needed. She looks adorable. This brief shot of Palmer leads me to believe this fight will play out differently from the original because he seems to be getting into some kind of mech suit, or perhaps he's getting into a Cromwell or a gun carrier. You can also see the gold saucer in the background, and based off the map, it doesn't look like we're visiting Rocket Town until Part 3 anyways. I'll discuss the map a little more later on. Perhaps we'll have a rematch with him in Part 3 once we get to Rocket Town too. It's also likely we don't even fight him in Rebirth, and this is merely just a cutscene. Don Corneo's greasy ass is back, and it looks like we'll get to fight him at the Gold Saucer. I'm assuming this takes place in Battle Square, but I noticed it says Red Corner up here. Perhaps there will be different booths offering different battles, or it could simply be like a wrestling ring when they refer to who's in what corner. You can see a gate down by Tifa's feet, so perhaps an announcer will announce Don Corneo's name as he emerges from the red corner. Another thing to think about is whether or not he's going by an alias to avoid attention from Shinra. Gilgamesh is finally confirmed, and I'm so excited he joined the Final Fantasy VII universe. I'm still thinking we'll encounter him via the proto-relics, perhaps like after the last relic is complete or something. The architecture is interesting though because we're not visiting Wutai in Rebirth, so I'm wondering where this is. Perhaps the proto-relics brought us to a different space-time? Let me know what you guys think about this place. We also got a new look at Roche. It looks like this battle takes place somewhere in Junon based off Cloud's outfit. My only hope is, in addition to this battle, we run into him at the Gold Saucer as well. I'd love to see this crazy bastard on a chocobo. I'm sure I'm in the minority, but I really like the guy. And once again, we get the same quote teased at us. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this quote always teased when either Zack or Aerith is on screen? This scene must take place after he rescues her from Shinra, or whatever the hell ends up going down. And they seem to be in the slums based off this short glimpse. And take note of the rain. It's always raining with these two. The next scene takes place in the Cave of the Gi, and they're for sure expanding the hell out of this area. I suspect this character speaking is a Gi Spectre. His dialogue is interesting because he's asking about the black materia. He also says we ask that you retrieve the black materia, so this might be one of many Gi Spectres we encounter. Perhaps there's even some sort of settlement within the cave. And then later on we see the party in a boat with the same guy, so I'm wondering if we end up refusing to help and he takes us to the boss in the Cave of the Gi, or perhaps his dialogue takes place after fighting the boss and he's leading us out of the cave? Honestly, I don't know, but I really love how much they're expanding everything, from minor NPCs to minor enemies even. It's awesome to see this. Like most of you guys, I loved Sisney in Crisis Core. It sounds like we'll run into her in Gungaga. She's the leader of the Gungaga Youth Coalition. She initially visited Gungaga after the reactor exploded as part of the relief effort, then ended up calling the village her home. Her past is shrouded in mystery, but her knack for both combat and leadership suggests she's no amateur. One thing to remember in Crisis Core is Zack asks Sisney to keep his parents company and mentions they'll probably ask her to join the family as well. It'd be nice to see if she's been keeping them company and perhaps even living with them. This is great attention to detail and I love to see it. I'm almost curious how this conversation will unfold too. It seems she recognizes Cloud as well, so either she mistakes him for Zack or she does remember seeing Cloud with Zack. Perhaps she'll mention Zack's name and Cloud will have one of his moments similar to when Aerith says Zack's name at the playground. She might even mention the experiments because if you recall in Crisis Core, she's well aware of the experiments Cloud and Zack went through. I'm almost certain whatever she ends up saying, it's gonna lead to Cloud having one of his moments, but at the same time, she might not say anything at all. There's a lot they could do with this dialogue, and I have to say Gungaga is one thing I'm looking forward to the most, even more so now that Cicely's there. I'm also curious if they'll have a nod to the original game where having Tifa and Aerith in your party leads to some optional dialogue when speaking to Zack's parents. But it seems like anytime there's an important cutscene, the whole party is there regardless of who's in the active party at the time, so I kind of doubt it. The alternate costumes look great, and Red 13's little voice crack was hilarious. And one thing I noticed behind Cait Sith is some kind of flying object. Now, this could simply literally just be a bird, but if it's not, I'm not sure if this is a tram thing that brings guests to the Gold Saucer, or if it's some other type of Shinra aircraft. Perhaps there will be aircrafts flying over every once in a while to make the world a little more lively, but I'm not too sure about that. It's kind of hard to tell the distance in the background too, but in the end, it could literally just be a bird and I'm making something out of nothing. Now, I'm not positive, but this scene with Yuffie makes me think this might be by the reactor near Mount Corral, because they seem to be standing on train tracks with different routes leading from the reactor. It's hard to tell though because not much was shown in the background, and it's very likely Yuffie thinks there's going to be materia down in the reactor. The falling areas look great, and I'm happy to see the hooded figures in Nibelheim. The next clip is of Elena falling from a helicopter that looks like it was shot down. Perhaps it was by Barrett? She does seem to be pretty pissed when she lands. Unfortunately, there aren't any structures in the background, so it's hard to tell where exactly this takes place. Perhaps it's leading to Gungaga after we get the buggy at the Gold Saucer? Vincent mentions he has history with Sephiroth, which is nothing new to us, but an interview revealed some good news for Vincent fans. When asked if there will be DLC featuring Vincent, Hamaguchi responded with, "Right now, we don't have any plans for DLC for Rebirth, including anything Vincent related. However, despite being a non-playable character, Vincent has an original quest in Rebirth where we'll learn more about his background and character. I feel that fans of Vincent will find this quite fulfilling. This makes me think we'll learn more about him with a quest that eventually leads us to Lucrezia's cave. It's possible this quest begins at the Shinra mansion because there's a picture of her and Hojo inside. Maybe a stack of documents inside the mansion initiates the quest. Perhaps we'll learn more about Proto-Materia and Chaos sooner rather than later as well. I'm excited to see what his quest will be like, and I'm curious if it's completely optional or if it's a mandatory quest line. All the minigames look solid, and we get to see Aerith doing a little Unidance. She's likely manipulating the live stream to progress forward in what appears to be the Temple of the Ancients. There's a save point in the background as well. The stone bench looks pretty cool, and it was a great decision to change the design, because it'd be a little odd having a random blue bench inside an ancient temple. I also noticed this thing, which we've also seen in the room Vincent was in. I can't remember if the developers ever talked about what these things are, but I'm guessing they have something to do with proto-relics. The dialogue with Cid makes it sound like Cid will wait outside the Temple of the Ancients, but also what the fuck is this? I can't make it out. I can't tell if it's some kind of debris or some piece of technology or maybe even a defeated enemy. Let me know what you think it is. Anyways, then we get a quick glimpse of our mysterious hooded figure, and this lines up with the earlier trailer when we first saw him at the parade. Take a look behind Rufus, they're clearly in Junon during this scene. I'm still not positive who this is, but I guess Glenn is still a strong possibility. However, Sung says he's an emissary from Wutai, and judging by the look on Rufus's face, I'd say he personally knows whoever this mysterious person is. Also, a minor thing to know is whoever this guy is, he doesn't wear shoes. The next scene with Tifa and Cloud clearly happens during this part we saw in the previous trailer. My guess is he swings his sword at her and she falls off the edge, and Cloud later snaps out of it and screams her name. But what's odd is Cloud is looking upwards when he screams her name. You'd think he'd be looking down if she fell off the edge. Also, going frame by frame, I noticed his pupils change. I'm not sure if this was intentional or a mistake, because honestly, there's no way in hell anyone would notice that played at full speed. And next we have Sephiroth and Zack. I guess depending on whether you believe in one timeline, two timelines, multiple worlds, or whatever, you can make what you will of this scene. And the same goes for the Aerith and Cloud scene. Perhaps this is another dream sequence like the one we got in a remake? We all know she keeps the materia in her hair, and so far we've seen her hair down a couple of times. In this scene, and when Zack is overlooking her. Perhaps this takes place when Cloud snaps out of it in Zack's world? Or, like I said, it's just another dreamlike sequence. But what's interesting is Sephiroth saying "no, not you" to Zack. You'd think he'd be looking for Aerith, but that line kind of makes me think he's looking for Cloud. And do these two scenes take place together? Are Cloud and Aerith inside while Zack is on the stairs? Let me know what you guys think is going on during this scene. And now for the most anticipated moment of the game. The way Cloud's voice actor screams so desperately gave me chills. But if we freeze the scene at the last frame, we get a better look at what's happening. It's hard to make out whether or not Cloud successfully stops Sephiroth in time, but to me it kind of looks like he might be a little late. I'd also like to point out that in the original game, this isn't the real Sephiroth, it's Jenova. So what if this is just a distraction to get Cloud to attack the wrong thing, while the real Sephiroth, the one with the wing seen just moments before, swoops in and kills her? I feel like the Sephiroth Cloud is swinging at in this frame is just going to turn into black dust or some shit as his sword slices through him. But regardless of what's happening, that smile on his face tells me he's in full control and Cloud is doing exactly what he wants him to do. I want to switch gears for a moment and talk about the gameplay video now. They did an excellent job describing the different aspects, so I won't go into too much detail to avoid redundancy. There's a few things I want to discuss though. Let's start with the map. First and foremost, you can see a checklist of available activities in each region. It shows your quest progress, and I'm assuming available Queen's Blood opponents. As for the third symbol, I can't really make it out, but perhaps it's available proto-relics? The layout of the map is slightly different from the original, and it's been confirmed many times Wutai won't be in Rebirth. But notice the small continent where Mideel is located is also missing. This is understandable since we don't visit Mideel until after the events at the Forgotten Capital. The layout is mostly true to the original, but I'm wondering where the Temple of the Ancients is. Unless they moved it, it looks like it's not on the map at all. And I'm pretty sure this island is where Fort Condor was moved to as well. So either the temple is in this area, or they might do some wild shit where it's completely underwater and a landmass surface is right around here. If you compare the maps of Ever Crisis and the original, the Temple of the Ancients should be right around here somewhere. Perhaps all these small islands come together, or honestly I have no clue. They could have just simply moved its location, to be honest. Another thing to note is Rocket Town isn't shown, as well as the Icicle Inn area and the Northern Crater. Those clouds are covering the areas. I'm sure some of you, like myself, suspected they would save Cid's arc for part 3, and this basically confirms it in my opinion. Also, real quick, but ever since I saw these wrecked ships a while ago, I've been wondering if there will be a proto-relic quest where we have to fight the ghost ship as an optional super boss. As stated in the video, proto-relics are basically mini side stories, so perhaps we'll get a side story investigating a rumored ghost ship seen in the area. Even though the ghost ship could only be encountered in the underwater reactor in the battle square, I could totally see them doing something with this enemy. This giant skeleton caught my eye, and it kinda reminded me of the unknown enemy found in the sunken Gelnica from the original game. I compare it to other water-based enemies, but these hand-like structures remind me of the unknown enemy. Let me know what you guys think this is. Is this just some random skeleton, or do you think it's a nod to something else? The scene of Cloud and Aerith takes place in the sleeping forest outside of the City of the Ancients. It'll be interesting to see how much the dialogue changes, and I wonder how they'll handle the scene just before this dream sequence. Cloud basically beats the shit out of Aerith, and I can't imagine them showing that in Rebirth. Perhaps he'll mindlessly swing his sword at her instead, with her desperately dodging before someone else intervenes. The enemies overall look fantastic in this game, and I have a feeling the boss in the Cave of the Gi is going to be intense based off this short snippet. I'm not sure what enemy this is, but it kind of resembles the Acrophes. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It could be a brand new and original enemy in Rebirth, but it kind of looks like they gave Acrophes a complete revamp. Notice the crab-like claw and the two different heads. Perhaps they tweaked the design a little bit. Either way, it's a pretty crazy looking enemy. Alright, so we have to talk about this part. Is this even Cloud? This look on his face is straight up Sephiroth. It's kind of off-putting, to be honest. What do you guys think? Is Cloud in full control during this part? He just seems so smug or something. It's that smile. It's really weird to look at. And I'm assuming this is also in the Gongaga region based on the background, so it's going to be interesting to see how this story plays out with him attacking Tifa and everything else that happens there. Assuming they keep the individual character mechanics for part 3, I'm really curious what Cid's and Vincent's unique world ability will be. I have a feeling Cid might be able to repair things or maybe even build minor gadgets out of rubble to progress forward. But Vincent, I'm not too sure what his ability would be. This is all speculation, of course, but I do hope they keep this mechanic because it allows us to interact with the world in different ways. One thing I'm wondering though is if these mechanics only play out for specific segments in the game. Take Tifa for instance using the grapple gun. Does this take place after she's separated from them in Gongaga, or are these abilities completely free to use whenever we see a need for them? Like, are these abilities restricted to specific story segments? That's what I'd like to know. I've mentioned this in another video, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it again because now it seems even more likely. I suspect this scene of Cloud and Tifa is of them looking at a poster of Jessie because now we can see the wall they're looking at and it's clearly a wall of different actors. It fades out right before the last 3 posters, which is where I suspect her picture to be. Look at the order of the posters behind Tifa and compare it to what we see here. And as I mentioned in the other video, Tifa has that certain look on her face. Sad Jessie's gone, yet she's still happy about the memories she has of her. Everything we've learned about synergy skills and abilities over the past several months has been incredible, and now with the introduction of folios, it's even better. They did a great job describing what folios are, but the main thing I want to highlight is the fact that you can reset them. This allows for massive experimentation and I can't wait. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and please consider subscribing, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As I mentioned earlier, this may or may not be my last video covering Rebirth content until after the game releases. I have plenty of other Final Fantasy content ideas, but I'm really trying to get through some of my backlog before Rebirth drops. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.